Previously on Wild County.
Hello everyone, Oshino here, and welcome back into this elaborate time-lapse series that is Wild County. What you just watched in introduction was a little experiment I did depicting very faithfully the event of the third episode. Wasn't it what you remembered? Anyway, episode 4 that we're starting now is gonna be quite intense. As I promised at the end of episode 3, I am gonna put everything until the end of the main building in this episode. What I did not expect is that it would take actually 16 hours of real gameplay to get there. So this is the result. It's going to be quite intense once again. I didn't think it would be possible to be more intense than episode 3 in time-lapse, but this is the proof it is actually. So it's going to be also a bit longer than usual. It's going to be 26 minutes of pure time-lapse, and it's going to be quite fast also, just like episode 3, but it's watchable. I think it's pretty good. I edited it so it could be like watchable and enjoyable, so enjoy, I hope. And yeah, so what we already started building was basically the handrail of our suspended covered bridge, you could call it like that, and we are already designing the wooden arches of this bridge, which are pretty Elven inspired, I would say. Maybe, I had some image of Elven arches that kind of look that way, but there's no real references I took or image or stuff like that to recreate. It was clearly like from my mind, but just from an image I had of Elven references. And I wanted it to be like heavy detailed and only made of wood. So this is the result, basically. It contains a lot of small pieces. And over the basic structure I already started to put lots more of detailing, but in the end it was too much. So, and it looked even like different. It looked a bit Mayan to some extent. So I decided to get rid of all the excess, and it gave a pretty interesting result I'm very happy with. So it is now time to duplicate those arches in order to create the actual bridge. here we are designing the frame of the bridge, basically what's going to be around those arches, in order to make it like a solid and single piece. It's also made from the same very small wooden pieces than the arches, which I like very much, and filling the gaps to finish the global design of this bridge. And here is the finished front side of the bridge, which is going to be duplicated on the other side. But first I had to sort a little bit all the unwanted pieces that went with the copy. And here it is. Sticking at the other side. And getting rid of useless pieces again, because we need to keep the count as small as possible for the Steam Workshop upload, which is quite tough on this building as it has so many small pieces. So this one I kind of went nuts with the detailing, but yeah, that's what I had in mind from the beginning. I really wanted something like heavy detailed for the bridge, as it's the central piece of the building. So adding some roofings, and now kind of a central tower on top of it in order to finish the central piece of the building. So as for this tower, I wanted to just go on with the same logic as the rest of the building, but I was thinking, as it's central and probably gonna be one of the highest point of the park, at least so far, I wanted to be something useful and quite common in theme parks, which is basically a clock tower, to see the time from afar and at the entrance and exit, obviously. So it is going to be a pretty nice clock tower, which we're going to design the detail very soon. So here is the pre-finished central piece before digging into the clock tower design, and here it is. So this is the main clock piece of the game. That is the most versatile, which is pretty handy in this situation. I also noticed at this point that this is a piece I already used in one of my earlier builds of the game, and actually it was in alpha state at that time, and the clock was not moving at all. But since the final release, actually, or maybe the beta, I don't know, the clock is actually moving at the exact same speed as the game. It shows the same time as the clock at the bottom of the screen. So that's pretty cool. That's a very cool detail, and probably not that easy to implement. So that was, yeah, quite impressive, I guess, on their side. And designing around it some kind of a sun or compass inspired motif, I guess, made of wood, also, obviously. And I feel it's been a pain in the ass to adjust and have all the pieces being symmetrical and regular as much as possible. But in the end, I think the result is very good. So I do not regret this decision. And adding some small detail now to just harmonize everything. and tiny last pieces. And this is the end of the design of the clock. Also adding some more details to the roofing with some flags, very distinctive flags from theme parks, you could say. Even getting some small useless details on top of the highest roof to have a nice spire. And one final flag. And obviously duplication time. We have 4 faces to cover, so here we go. And as the 2 sides on the left and right of the tower are a bit wider, I just designed a small added decoration for it, in order not to leave any weird white spaces. And that's it, being duplicated on the other side as well. And that's it for the clock tower, which concludes the central piece of the building, and clearly the most detailed one. It is by itself in the end, actually right now, before the lighting, it is 1986 pieces, if I remember. So like barely 16 pieces away from the maximum limit of the Steam Workshop, just for this piece of the building, so I'm pretty proud of myself on this. I don't know if I should, but I am. So yeah, that's how it ended. And it's pure luck, because after getting rid of all the useless pieces, that's what was left of it, and I was like, yes, I have to put 16 lights, not more than that. And yeah, already starting the most extreme part of the building, like ending it on each side, I would say. And I wanted from the start like to have a kind of a fat roundish tower in order to end this a bit differently, having all those square buildings ending all the time. So yeah, I wanted a bit of a change, and it's gonna become actually a very cute building that could be self-sufficient. I mean, you know, in itself, just standing alone in itself, it's pretty cute already, but it's obviously going to be attached to the rest of the main building by a less detailed bridge than the central one. So yeah, just making right now, trying to design an interesting tower that is not too normal to look at. So wood framing again and again. And yeah, the basic idea was to have a kind of a thicker wood framing at the base of the tower, designed by these pieces of wood. And going all around the tower. Giving it an interesting framing.
I'm so in love with you, cleaning martyrs. I'm so in love with you, love you.
So this is the time consuming part of the decoration of the tower. It is I wanted to have some horizontal detail that was fitting the tower shape, but in the game, the in-game pieces are already made of stone, most of them, and I wanted some wooden detail that was oriented that way, so I had to make my own, also using those same very small pieces which I like. And yeah, took a while, but in the end it looks good, so pretty happy about that. And this is the rest of the building that is going to be attached to the tower, that is going to be shaped right now, and using some, once again, duplicated pieces of the rest of the building. to have this fit well together. And I did not finish detailing the tower first because I wanted to see where the building goes inside it, and then detail what's appearing in the end. So once again struggling with the angles of this bloody main street. Oh, by the way, the main street, I found a name for it because I was getting annoyed repeating the main street, the half circle shaped rounded main street or whatever. So actually just very simple and fitting name. I want to call it Crescent Street. Simple, efficient. So yeah, I think it fits it, and it's like pretty good sounding name. So yeah, this would be Crescent Street from now on. And to finish the small building with the tower, I wanted to just design a small terrace to fill the empty space behind. And yeah, I think it was like a bit of a different thing, and we didn't do any terrace just yet, with some lighting and easy detailing, I guess. So that's the core base structure of the extreme left part of the building. I don't know how to call it, but yeah, this is how it is. And then from here I'm starting to finish the detailing of the tower. I started putting those nice simple windows, but then I was like, this is just too normal, so I started detailing one, and I ended up erasing all the other in order to get that detailed window everywhere. And it looks pretty good in the end. You're gonna see that in a minute also. Once again, using like various pieces of wood to get something interesting. It's a pretty common practice in the community of using doors in order to get behind the windows in order to give it some texture, and I didn't do that just yet in the game, and this is pretty much the first example of me doing it, using those doors behind. And yeah, that was a pretty good try with this one. And adding more detail and linking the tower with the rest of the building piece. So in the end, this is a kind of a pergola, just like for the ticket booth building. And it's gonna be decorated at a later time in the episode. And right now, as I finish the last piece of the building, this is the final design of those small secondary bridges that is starting to take shape right here. So once again, same logic, you know the drill. The minimum amount of stone, same white walls and wooden pieces everywhere. It's gonna be also the same kind of open wooden detailed bridges, but the detailing will be like lighter and a bit different than the central one to make a difference and keep it interesting. So fairly simple but efficient, and adding some more smaller details. duplicating it as usual to go on the other side of the building. The width was not the same, so I had to make some adjustments, which has been cut while editing to gain some time, but this is the final result of the two sides, and already I am starting the roofing for this bridge, which also was a pain because the width was different, as I said, so it was a bit difficult to get something that looked good and filled in everything, especially those roof from the other pieces of the building that were not nicely ended. So you're gonna see very soon what is the final result that I'm quite happy with. Yeah, I wanted also to have those roofs being in a different orientation as the rest to get some variety and shape the doors. The main idea was to end up with a kind of a small, round, circular tower with a square-shaped roof, not to be copying everything else from the building and having some originality to it. And I didn't want to have this tower to be higher than the other because I wanted to keep those kind of proportions and priorities in height from the main building. So this is the final design of it, and we are now detailing. Giving an interesting design to simple windows. So this is the second type of windows I created with a different type of door, and I'm also very happy with it, obviously. Just finishing some detailing on the roof. This is the very typical alpine type of decoration, which I couldn't do yet with that building, so I'm pretty happy I could fit this type of roofing and triangular shaped decoration on it. Really feels like a typical alpine building with this. And duplicating on the other side, as the other side was a much bigger cone of wall, I had to change a bit the design, to fit proportionally in that thing. So instead of one window I used four, for example, but the system of decoration is the same as the other side, obviously, to keep some logic to it. And that's it for the design of the last piece of the building, which leaves us with only one last thing to do. Is just duplicating that side which is built of the building on the other side. But first, some more detailing of the tower with some green foliage elements. Same technique as in the first episode for the ticket booth, as you noticed, but this time I also added some vines, which I completely forgot before. And also something quite rare in this series so far, some light design or just light blazing at night, which I think is pretty good. And I didn't do that much, as the part I did in episode 1 was cut because of the problem I had at the time with the software. So this is pretty much the first time you see some light design in the game, I guess, on my series. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Just adding some nice yellow lights in order to lit up all that new part of the building. And as you can see, I am still using the same hanged light I designed for the rest of the main building. There is just a single spotlight inside the wooden bridge, as you see it from here. And this is the finished result of this new piece of building, which I'm very happy with. And you can see it in daytime. And here starts the final duplication of the final piece of the building, and once again it's been a pain because as it is oriented in a very specific way, it couldn't be duplicated and just put that way, so I had to basically cut it into pieces, the tower itself only, and then had to rebuild the pergola, and then had to get some pieces of the building duplicated separately, just as you're seeing it right now. I also had to fix the road in order to fit better this side of the building now. And yeah, it took it took quite long, and it's exactly the same thing that happened on the rest of the episode, so I cut the footage pretty heavily here. It's going to be done in a second. So just finishing already, linking the tower with the new piece of the building on the other side, and some more detailing on that side. And you see it's already almost finished and adjusted, just finishing also closing it along the street. And now we are duplicating the last piece, which is the last bridge. And once again, as the two sides of the building are not the same, well, that bridge was not well designed for this side of the building. Like, for example, you see there was a very big difference on the left, and the width was different and stuff, so I had to adjust once again everything, be kind of piece by piece in order to fit this custom made path, you would say. Just some more tweaking, once again heavily edited, not to get into useless details that are all the same and quite boring to watch. And this is it. And I think the other side was also rectified, but I didn't show it because it's also exactly the same. I had to move the rounded tower on top in order to get it centered on that side of the building, and it's not centered on the other side. So yeah, and this is it. This is the final result. This is the building finished, actually just some more detail left, but this is the end of this time lapse. I leave you with some cinematics of the finished building for you to enjoy, and I see you just after it.
'Cause we're too far from done, and I know you could be the one. 'Cause we all live for the love, we all live for the love. Even though we've only begun, we give it all for the love. I'm out on the line, praying that our stars align, until I'm yours and you are mine. I put my heart on the line. I'm out on the line, and I know that I'll be fine, until I'm yours and you are mine. I put my heart on the line. Sometimes we lose our way, no we can't define the things that make us stay lost in time. I wake up every day to see a smile, and I put it all for you on the line. So I thought you could be the one, 'cause we all live for the love, we all live for the love. Even though we've only begun, we give it all for the love. I'm out on the line, praying that our stars align, until I'm yours and you are mine.
And we are back. I hope you enjoyed those cinematics. And now here we are with the main building finally finished. For next episode, nothing's yet decided, but I think it is very likely we're gonna do some terraforming on the park, shaping a bit the park, and how it's gonna look like, mountains, rivers, all of that. Also probably some adding some touches to the street, going on shaping it, and we're gonna probably start the actual park itself. So I hope you enjoyed this very intense episode, and as usual you have the subscribe button just on the screen or below the video. You can also leave me likes or click on the social networks button if you want to join the community. It always helps, and I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.